Boom. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Another night of the extraordinary family life formula coaching. I hope you are buckled up because Rachel is on one today.
That was you.
It was me. I was on one today, but buckle up. We're going to do some fun coaching. Let's have some fun tonight, huh? Let's have some laughs, shed some tears, make some of you feel really uncomfortable and awkward. Haha, just kidding. So Rachel and I, we are with our family, we are in Mexico, in a place called Progreso, where we've rented a big, beautiful house right on the beach with a nice pool in the sand. And so we got to go paddle boarding today and swimming and got to go on a walking around the beach the last couple of days. It's been really, really fun. So we're here with our whole family, and then another traveling family we've met up with around the world. They're from Germany. And they're here with us, and you guys, we're out having a blast, having so much fun, enjoying life, and enjoying travel again, and enjoying adventure. And since we met with you guys last time, man, we've just had some amazing waterfall, beach, mountain experiences. Hello. It's been magical. You guys know us. We feel so alive when we're out adventuring and creating memories. That's how we see ourselves. We see ourselves as memory gatherers, and we're out doing it, and it just feels so alive and so fun and so exciting to just be creating and doing cool things. We're trying to figure out our lighting situation here to see. Go ahead and click it on.
It's dead.
Is it
You
dead?
have to plug it in first.
Oh, I don't have a USB.
Oh, that's right.
So if you want to grab my big USB light, we can do that.
Just using that downstairs.
No, that's his. Mine's right here. Anyways, we're trying to figure out some lighting because it's nighttime. But just let's connect for a second, you guys. What's going on? What are you working on? I just want to. I love connecting with you, hearing what you're doing and how things are going. So everyone just share something you're working on, something's going on, something you're grateful for, something you're excited about. Those are easy options, right? Really?
Is that worse?
That's better than nothing, maybe. We're going to use a reading lamp. There you go. Reading lamp lights. Oh, that's cool.
We're getting creative.
This is awesome. I'll show you our little antenna bug lights. We're getting creative here, you guys. Love this stuff. Okay, everyone share something. Share something in the chat box or jump on the mic. What are you working on? What are you excited about? What are you grateful for?
I have dishes going on in the background, so I apologize. But so I've been swinging from the pull-up bar. That's as far as I've gotten so far.
Nice. That's what I've been doing.
Yep. And it's fun. That makes it fun right there. Just swinging, having a good old time. Love it. Nice.
Good
job. That's so cool. Good. Taking action, guys. Sometimes that's all it is. It's just breaking the inertia, huh? Of just acting on something. Okay, what else? Come on. Throw in the chat. Jump on mic. What are you working on? What are you excited about? What are you grateful for? And I'm serious. If none of you are grateful or excited or working on anything, we are going to go through one by one and help you. We're going to do coaching tonight, and we're going to help you get excited and grateful and work on something. Let's see. Mary says, my husband had a job interview today. Nice. For a position with a substantial increase. We all like substantial increases, don't we? He heard back within the hour that he is moving on to the next stage in the hiring process. Yay. Oh, and that's a good sign too when it comes back that fast. Congrats. That's wonderful. How exciting. We'll let you know where you can send over any extra money you want to send our way, just any donations. You'll have all that substantial extra money. Some people don't know what to do with that. Let's see. Heather says, handling stress better than in the past. That's always a bonus, right? All in favor of handling stress better?
Yes.
Yeah, baby. Less stress, more awesomeness. That's what I say. The fridge died at 5:30 a.m. Messed up my perfectly planned day. Oh, that's so classic. It's so classic. We can laugh because it's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
The old Heather would have not handled it well. The new Heather went for her run at 6:45 a.m.
Awesome.
anyway.
Yes.
At the end of the day, we bought a used fridge to get this by while we wait for a part we need for our real fridge to come in 8
Oh, wow.
weeks. Jeez, where do you live? Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny?
COVID
Sometimes
too,
we
though.
get like next day delivery for Amazon. They're like, yeah, 8 weeks for that part.
We're like,
Where are we? What is happening? Stayed in the budget. Oh my goodness, that's a good update
Impressive
right
we
there.
even had one.
That is
great.
awesome. And way to go on that run. That's
Mhm.
that's
That's the best
sweet.
thing to do when things don't go
Yep.
as well as planned.
Just carry on.
Stick to the schedule.
Carry on.
As much as you can.
So iPhone here, that's a unique name. Somebody was very creative when they named you iPhone long before the iPhone was even invented. I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. So grateful for others who inspire me. I've been working on celebrating others' success and mine too. Oh, we love that.
That was good.
Isn't it fun? And on a total serious note, isn't it fun and rewarding and fulfilling to celebrate other people? Doesn't that feel fantastic? I think sometimes when we get small-minded or narrow-minded, we think other people's success somehow means we're failing. If they succeed, I fail. And
We feel resentful.
yeah, we feel resentful or jealous. I remember feeling that all the time, like, ooh, I'm just so happy for you. How come everything seems to work out for you? Ugh. And then we start comparing, right? And comparison is the thief of joy. Because your day could be going amazing, and then you learn about somebody else's better day. And then all of a sudden your day is not going so well anymore, right? So I love that. Thank you for that reminder, iPhone. Trying to use your name. It's one of those great interpersonal skills. Just kidding.
Mary says her income is not
Not
that substantial to send you
Oh,
donations.
come on, Mary. Jeez, you get this huge raise and then you're all going to be stingy about it. Gosh. Been doing a morning routine and loving it.
Woo-hoo.
Fantastic, Laura, love it. I'm told it's a pandemic problem for the refrigerator. No,
That was the
no one
same.
can
Our
get this
friend's
part.
stove oven in Texas broke, and it was gonna be
Oh
like
yeah,
8 weeks.
8 weeks. It was 8 weeks for a part for their stove.
It's
So
this
they have no
pandemic.
oven for 8 weeks. People die because of things like that. I've heard quite a few people having issues getting appliances. Yep. Grateful. Nathan says, I'm grateful our family started reading The Bulletproof Diet.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
Very
that one's
nice.
good. We plan to discuss chapter 1 tomorrow at breakfast. And breakfast is going to be different. I've been trying to get my family interested for a year. Some are still not interested, but I think we're going to read it. I love it. Wonderful, you guys.
great.
Fantastic. Okay, thanks for being here. Thanks for being awesome.
I'm going to mention this so we don't forget. Heather also asked us to answer a question that we're going to answer today about if anything has gone wrong on this trip that we've been on and what we did to handle it.
Let's do that now.
Oh, okay.
Boom
I thought you
shakalaka.
had something else.
I do. I have lots of stuff, but go for it.
You want to start with that?
Yep, go. Hit it.
So that's actually a really great question. And we were thinking about that and discussing it.
This actually brought up an interesting thing because I was like, nothing's gone wrong.
That was his first response.
That's my first response. I'm like, dude, this trip has been epic.
And you
Nothing
can tell,
has gone
you can
wrong.
tell the differences in our thinking because I was like, of course things have gone wrong, right? But that's my mind. I'm always kind of thinking about or noticing the things that go wrong. And Greg is always noticing everything that goes right. So we went to It doesn't matter. We drove to Costco. There's a Costco right 30 minutes from here. And we were discussing it. And I thought of 2 specific scenarios of things that I guess went wrong. Well, they were kind of connected, actually. Well, it was kind of connected. So we had set a goal to climb Orizaba, which is a volcano here in Mexico. That's what, 18,000,
500 feet.
almost, yeah, 18,500 feet.
It's big.
It's very large. Okay, it's huge. And we had, how many of our kids?
4.
3 of our kids.
Oh, 3 of our kids and then 2 mentees.
Like, yeah, a couple mentees that were all, so there were 6 of us. And we had all basically had this idea in our mind that, well, obviously we're going to summit this because that's what we do. We can push, we can do hard things, we can make it. We got up there, we were all excited. We stayed the night. It's called the Refugio, it's the refuge. It's at about 14,000 feet. And we stayed the night there and we all went to bed very excited. We were up, it was a gorgeous day. We saw the mountain. It was right there above us. I mean, we were all just super stoked.
We drove above
and excited.
The clouds.
Yeah, we were above the clouds. So we're looking back above the clouds.
And so to give you context, we drove to a overnight camp that is higher than any mountain on the continental US.
And I think Orizaba is the highest mountain in Mexico, right?
Yes. And the
So
third highest in the continent.
Yeah. 3rd highest in North America, highest mountain in Mexico. So we drove up and we're camping, sleeping higher than most mountains in the US. We all had a terrible night. Did not sleep. Okay, let me back up really quick. 2 or 3 days before we're supposed to climb this mountain, my daughter, who was going to climb it with us, got a stomach bug and threw up 6 times in 24 hours. The next day, Greg was sick with it, but it was also a day we were moving Airbnbs. So we packed up everything, drove. It was supposed to be a 3-hour drive and it took us 8 hours because of traffic.
You guys, so I love to drive. I love to drive. I hate being a passenger. She drove. Because I was so sick. I was
so sick.
I was in the passenger seat in the fetal position, thinking happy thoughts. I go to your happy place.
This is the day before we're supposed to go stay the night on the mountain, and we're transferring to Airbnbs. So we get up there. So because of his mind powers, he's better. The Friday morning we're supposed to go up there. We go up to the mountain. In the back of my mind, I was trying to think positive thoughts, but I had this kind of little thing in my stomach, And I'm like, oh, no, I'm fine. I'm going to be good. But that night, first of all, I couldn't sleep. We went to bed at 7 o'clock because we're supposed to get up at midnight to start hiking, right? So we went to bed at 7 p.m. But I did not go to sleep. I could not sleep at all. Started to get a headache at around 10, started to be sick to my stomach at around 11. And by midnight I was crying because I'm like, I'm not even going to be able to start this hike, right? Because the other concern is altitude sickness. Altitude sickness is legit. You don't want to mess with that. So anyways, midnight, everybody gets up to start hiking and I'm crying, but I decided I'm going to at least do what I can. So I put on all my gear. You got to put on, your 3 layers of clothing and your 2 layers of gloves and your harness and your ice axe and your crampon, all this stuff. You're putting on your helmet and we start hiking.
It's pitch black outside, but there was a full moon, a gorgeous.
And there was a moon bow. Have you guys ever seen that? Where there's a circle around the moon?
It was perfect.
That was cool.
It was perfect.
That was really cool.
It was so special. But starting to walk at 1:30 in the morning,
14,000 feet.
After having not
really
slept,
nice.
it's not amazing.
So anyways, fast forward. I hiked for probably, 4 hours. And then my son, who's 16, he started to get sick to his stomach. And he actually went with my husband to base camp, and they went to base camp together. He got altitude sickness there when he was 13. And so afterwards, he was kind of laughing and telling us, he's like, yeah, I kind of started to get this PTSD from altitude sickness at base camp. So he started to get sick to his stomach, and he was like, I'm done. I can't, I'm done. So he went back. My daughter went back. I was going to still try to keep going, but all the guides had gone on with the rest of the group, except for 2 of them. And the one's like, I'm going to go join the group. And the other one's like, I'll go with you, me. And so they sent my 2 kids down the mountain in the dark by themselves. And I'm looking
they were fine.
I know, but it was scary.
Fine.
I'm looking like them going down this, I'm not kidding you. It was like that steep, and you're climbing on ice with ice crampons. And I'm like, that looks kind of scary. I'm like, I think I'm going to go back with them. So the guide and I went back with them. So we went back.
Because Rachel was confident she would save them if they fell off the mountain.
It was because the guide was with me, and I knew if I went back, then the guide would go back. So anyways, so we get back to camp at I'm turning it down.
Who turned it up to 26? I am sweating.
Sorry, I'm turning it down.
Rachel's got the furnace on in here. We're in the tropical jungle, and I'm just dripping. What's wrong?
Okay, we're taking too long with this story.
Okay, go.
Point being, we got back to camp at 5 a.m. and we just sat there, all of us sick to our stomach, and we all were like, why did we do this? Why are we here? We finally, after sitting there for 30 minutes, freezing and being miserable, got out all the camping gear, because we'd packed it all up when we were going to climb the mountain. We packed up all the camping gear, put all the sleeping bags and air mattresses. We pulled it all out, set it all up again for the 3 of us, and we went back to sleep. Well, 8 a.m., I wake up, and it's light outside, and there's my other son standing there above me, and he's like, yeah, I'm back. He's like, I went for a couple more hours, and then I almost passed out, so Dad sent me down the mountain. So he came down, and then probably around 11. So I got back at 5, he got back at 8, and you came back at about 11 a.m. 11 a.m., Greg comes down the mountain with our mentee son. Greg sits down and literally goes into shock. Actual physical shock. And he's sitting there shaking like this. Lips are blue, face is white. Then he lays down. He's like, give me something so I can throw up. And then he's like, take off my boots. And then he's laying down, and he's just in shock. And we're talking to him, and nothing. He's gone. And I'm like, whose idea was it to do this? Right? So at that moment, we were all kind of a little wow, this was really, 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 really hard. We're used to doing hard things, we think, but climbing mountains is no joke. But it was really also amazing and very fascinating. And here's what I loved. All of us were miserable, but we all had such a great attitude about it. All of us were literally just laughing and making jokes about it. And my son, he had thrown up. The one that came down with me had thrown up. My other son almost passed out.
Was cracking jokes. They were cracking jokes about it. It was awesome.
Yeah, they just had such a great attitude about it. And then later that day, and then the next day, we talked about it and we processed it and we, worked through all of it. And it was just really cool to see all of us be able to analyze why, what was going on mentally, physically, emotionally, that we had reached our limits, we'd pushed our limits, and why that was a limit for us, and just to be able to think through, because I think that's the power of dealing with difficult stuff, is it's easier to deal with difficult things when you can process what's going on in your head and what's going on in your heart, right? And so, I mean, no doubt about it, I'm so super grateful that we all were able to go through that experience together and have a reality check of like, yeah, you guys aren't quite that tough yet. But to know firsthand, like, okay, what it really means to climb a mountain and all the serious limits you have to push to be able to do it. And that, like, on the mountain, the little things are big deals. Like it's a big deal to not sleep well. It's a big deal to not have the right gear. It's a big deal, like life or death, big deal.
To have a little bit of an upset stomach.
Yeah, all of that's a big deal. And so it helps you to really, I don't know, I love the comparison that it has for life, because a lot of times we don't pay a lot of attention to the small things in our life because we think, oh, they're not a big deal. When I've learned firsthand that the small things are a big deal, because you can't escape the consequences of the small things. Even though it kind of seems like you can, on the mountain, the consequences are almost immediate. In life, like the consequences, there's a delay. Exactly. There's a delay, but there are consequences.
So altitude magnifies.
Yes, altitude magnifies the small things. And so you have to be ultra prepared and ultra...
Isn't that true for life too? As we climb higher and higher, you guys, we all elevate and optimize our lives. We keep getting better. It starts magnifying the little things. And you're like, oh, okay, now I'm noticing this. This needs to go too. This needs to be adjusted. This needs to be changed. And if we want to keep climbing higher and higher and keep reaching upward, we got to pay attention to the details, you guys, and fix those little things. For me, it was pretty infuriating because that day before we started climbing, I didn't eat anything. I didn't drink anything. So I was weak and I was dehydrated starting the party. And so I got with Devin and I, we got within about 500 or 600 feet from the top. So I could literally see the top. And we watched the sunrise. It was one of the most beautiful sunrises I've ever seen. It was the best full moon and moon ring I've ever seen. And we got to see the sun comes up and casts a shadow. The mountain's like a perfect triangle volcano. It casts a shadow across all of Mexico. And I got to see that. It was so special, right near the top. And I was just shaking. I couldn't feel my arms. And I was like I had vertigo and nausea so bad from the altitude. I was hanging onto my ice axe saying, like, please don't fall off this mountain. And the glacier, I'm no joke, it's this steep.
It's insane.
It was crazy steep.
You're just hanging onto the edge of the glacier with crampons.
And your crampons, little spikes on the bottom of your boots. Those are crampons. So you got spikes on the bottom of your boots and you got your ice axe. Just like, I felt like a little old man, like, please don't die.
But he had enough.
We're roped together.
He had enough wisdom to, even though you were that close, you knew you had to turn back because
it was getting dangerous.
Yeah.
Like the vertigo was dangerous. I was so dizzy. So we turned back. But I will say, I'm going back and I will beat that mountain. I will whip that mountain, and that mountain will regret the day that it met me, because I'm gonna make that mountain pay for what it's done to me. But we'll go back. And the way we're going to do that is Rachel and I are planning on climbing next week. We're planning climbing a mountain that's 1,000 feet higher than that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, baby. We're heading to Ecuador.
But we did learn some lessons if we're going to, and here's the thing. Here's what I love. Like, this is the lesson for me. Like, it's not necessarily about summiting the mountain, but it's about trying. Like, you're not that, and that, I think that's true for life. You're not always going to win, and especially not the first time. But the important thing is to try, because when you try, you learn things. You learn things about yourself. You learn things about the mountain that you can't learn just by thinking about it. Like, I couldn't fully, completely conceptualize what it means to be on the mountain, right? Unless I actually go to the mountain. And this is a metaphor for life too. So you learn things, and then you learn things that can help you do it better next time. So yeah, we're going to attempt Cotopaxi. I'm not going to lie. I was on Orizaba thinking, there's no way I'm doing Cotopaxi. Like, I'm done. I'm backing out.
It was one of those moments when you're
it's
intense.
Like giving birth.
Yeah, you're
right?
in labor. You're in labor,
like,
giving
I'm never
birth.
having children again. It was just like that. I'm never climbing mountains again. But I realized I can at least try, because I don't I can go as far as I can go, and that's enough. That's good. Like, we're going to, I'm going to get a better air mattress. We're going to take some melatonin so we actually sleep well. Like, we're doing all these things to improve our chances. And then I'm just going to do what I can and see how far, I go. And that's enough. So that was one of the things that did not go as planned, but that's okay. Like, that's life.
And then we came back to the place we rented online.
Then we rented awesome. This Airbnb. It was one of the only places I could find near the mountain. And I messaged beforehand, make sure we're going to have good internet so we can work, because we're going to climb the mountain that weekend. And then we want to stay that week and work the whole week. Well, we get back Sunday or Saturday night, and the internet just sucks. It's just bad.
Not to mention there was no stove.
Not to mention there was no stove or oven.
And they're like, yeah, we have a kitchen. You roll in. They're like, no stove, no oven. We're like, how are we supposed to cook food? And he's like, well, you can make a fire outside.
And we're like, oh boy. So
yeah,
then that was the next thing that did not go as planned. So here we are. We're supposed to teach. This was last week. We were supposed to teach the formula and education coaching and all of his personal coaching. So Monday we kind of tried it, and Tuesday we were like, this is not working. So in that moment, you have to decide, what's the best, what's the thing we have to do here in order to produce the results we need? What do we have to do? And we thought, well, we've got to find another place if we can. But that was the hard part, because there was nothing really nearby. We found something in Veracruz, was actually kind of out of the way. It was not on our travel route.
I'm so glad we went though.
I know. So then the next thing is okay, I'm applying life lessons here. What should we do? What can we do? What are the actual real options? So then when we're okay, we need to move, so we have a stove and internet. What are the actual options available? So I look online, I do my research. I actually contact people because I want to know if
there's an actual stove.
If there's an actual stove.
If we have to make a fire in the backyard.
So we contact them, and then once somebody says, yes, we have a place, yes, it has what you need, here's the offer to do it, then you have to make the decision. Okay, do we go ahead and do it? Not knowing if we're going to get a refund on the place we're at, because they might just be like, oh, sorry, you don't get your money back. And this was what was interesting for me, because I know 10 years ago when we made a similar trip, we drove through Mexico 10 years ago with our kids. We were living in our truck in a homemade camper. And that old me would have been very stressed out by this whole thing. We paid the money already. What if we lose it? What are we going to do? And this time I was just I know what we need to do. So we just move forward. And even if we don't get our money back, when you know what you need to do, you just do it. You move forward with faith that, it's going to work out the best way that it can. So we booked the place. We did request the guy would get the other host that he would give us our money back. At first he denied it, but that's because there was an error with Airbnb. So I was like, oh, okay. Anyways, got our money back, packed up, drove to Veracruz, checked into a new place. So it was that was not planned. And then had great internet for the rest of the week.
And a great experience. It was a really special contrast. Can I make an invitation to all of you to strategically create contrast? Jot this down. If you're taking notes tonight, jot this down. Strategically create contrasts for yourself and your family. There's so much to be gained in contrast. It gives us a perspective and an understanding. And you don't understand it quite as well unless it's contrasted against something else. Does that make sense? When you look at something, you go, okay, it's interesting, but when you contrast it to something else, like the shadow, behind it or the size, it adds so much enlightenment and understanding. And so we went from this place that was totally out in the countryside, and we had acres of land and palm trees, and these parrots come screeching through there every morning, and chickens all over the place, cooking on a fire.
It was like a rustic hostel, like.
But the kids loved it, especially all of them loved it. They were outside running around playing. It's just in nature. There was nobody else around. Like there was literally nobody else around. It was amazing. And we went from that to being right in the middle of a big old city. And we rented a condo. And the contrast from the country to the city, having two completely different experiences immediately one after another, it was so insightful and so fun. And we got to enjoy both. And to be seeing the countryside and the big city, and it was really awesome. Yeah. Hey, brother. But do that often. Seek out contrasts for your family. Seek out ways to create the perspective. Love this stuff. Okay.
So those were the two things that went wrong.
Yep.
Do you know what though? Maybe I'll just share part of this story so after we left the place in Veracruz, the condo, we actually drove and we stayed and camped on a beach. And this was a beach that, I'm not kidding you, 9 years ago on our other trip, it was our Alaska to Argentina trip, living in our truck with our camper. We camped on this almost the exact same beach.
Like it was. I think it was the exact same spot. I really do.
Anyways, we camped there, and it was gorgeous, like unbelievable amounts of beautiful seashells, just perfect. Well, so this is 9 years ago. We stayed, and then the next morning, we tried to start our truck, and it wouldn't start. And we ended up being stuck there for, 2 or 3 days. Greg had to hitchhike into town, get the truck towed. I got like dysentery or something horrible, like some terrible diarrhea. So sick.
Wanted diarrhea.
Wanted to diarrhea. Ended up jerry-rigging some sort of solution because they couldn't figure out how to start the truck, but I don't even remember. You like pulled out the fuel tank and put a gas can,
ran the fuel line
under his feet
to a 5-gallon bucket of fuel under my feet to try to get this thing to work. It was so frustrating. It
started that way, and we were like, okay, we were supposed to meet friends in like Cancun in like a week. So we're like, okay, we got to get over there to Cancun. We left driving with this gas thing under his feet, parked for the night. Next morning, same thing, truck won't start. And that was the beginning of like a few weeks of problems like that, where me personally, mentally, and spiritually, I was just crashing downhill. Like one thing after another just went wrong, to the point where my $1,000 camera got stolen. And then remember the guy with the ring? Then we got swindled out of $400 by this guy who sold us his ring because he was in trouble and he needed to get back to his family. And like, we were not as wise as we are now. But one thing after another. And we had like no money. Like, we were not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. So all of that was a very huge deal. And I remember it was getting close to Christmas actually. And I just thought like the only thing I want for Christmas is to just rent a house and just unpack from this truck and just have a break and like cook something in an oven, right? Like that's all I wanted. And we got to this little teeny beach town and I'm like, okay, I just want to rent a house. And I remember we were driving and we saw this perfect little beach house that was for rent. It was right on the water on stilts and you could just go right out into the water and it had this nice little view. And we talked to the guy and I'm like, just let it be in our price range that we can afford. And it was $1,000 a month. And that was too much. We couldn't afford that. And so we had to turn it down. We had to say no. And so we went and drove around and tried to find a place to just park.
You can go help. I'll carry on the story. So you guys, and we're in the middle of nowhere. We have traveled so far out in the middle. We're just so remote. And the only thing she wanted, she was at her wit's end. She was done. She was ready to be done traveling ever again. Right? Can you imagine the stress and the turmoil and the kids? And it's just like, oh, everything that's going wrong could go wrong. And we're like, we just need a place to stay. And we couldn't stay in this place. And so we're like, well, okay, where can we just at least camp for the night? And they're like, oh, I know, open lot down there. And we're like, great, it's right by the beach. We'll go down. We get down there. It's like this trash hole, just garbage everywhere, just disgusting. And there was nowhere else to go. And we're just like, ah. And so we're like, okay, we literally had nowhere else to go. So we set up camp there and we're like, hey, we'll just make dinner. We'll go to bed. We'll sleep this off and figure something out. So we take down the tailgate. We get out our camping stove and we start making dinner and it tips over and catches the truck on fire. Right? You guys, this is like Christmas Eve. And now the truck's on fire. And I'm like, no, the truck's on fire. And we're putting the truck. And Rachel's just bawling like, it's all over. It's all over. Like, this is it. This is the last straw. And we reached like,
Well,
it was this breaking point.
It was totally a breaking point because I kept saying like the whole time from this beach that we camped on and the whole rest of the time of it breaking down and like diarrhea, pooping my pants, camera stolen, swindled out of $400 per ring, like all this stuff. I kept saying.
You're making everybody want to travel.
Oh, I know. Well, this is the other side of it. But I kept saying, oh my gosh, things cannot get any worse. Like that was my thing. I kept saying that. Things can't get any worse. And then it would. Okay. And then the freaking truck starts on fire. And I finally, in that moment, had this life-changing realization. It can always get worse. Wait,
so don't say that anymore.
So don't say that. And so I realized I just had to surrender. Like I kept trying to control it all. Like I'm going to control this and I'm going to make it work and I'm going to, stop the problems from happening. And I finally was just like, I have to surrender. Like even now, I'm calling someone.
Here, just keep going with your story. Okay. I got this.
My little girl wants some veggie straws. Where is everybody to get the veggie straws? So I literally that night, that moment, I just said, okay, whatever is going to come my way, let it come. I surrender. I literally said that. I surrender. Like I'm going to stop fighting it. I'm going to stop fighting things going wrong. And like from that moment of I surrender, things went uphill right from there. The very next day, we left that dumpy little camp spot that was like in the front of this broken down house. We drove without a map. This was like before Google Maps or anything. Like it probably existed, but we didn't have internet to use it on our phone with our budget. So we drove straight from there without knowing where we were going and drove to this other little beautiful town. It's called Bacalar, and it's the Lagoon of Seven Colors. It's right on a freshwater lagoon. We drove straight into town, turned left, turned right, into a campground that was gorgeous with an outdoor kitchen, outdoor shower. And we stayed there for 7 weeks, and it was like amazing, like this completely incredible experience there. And yeah, like literally our life just got better from that moment when I finally surrendered and said, okay, I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm just going to accept and know that I can handle. I haven't died yet, right? I can handle, I can process, I can manage whatever comes my way. And when I have that mindset, instead of fighting it and resisting it, instead having the mindset that I will manage, I will handle whatever comes my way, then fewer things had to come my way. Because I was willing to face them if they came. And for like, that's been my life philosophy since then. And I mean, so now come back full circle. Here it is 9 years later, we went to the same beach. This time we have our very nice Nissan NV 3500 with our huge rooftop tent.
Luxury two-story tent.
Completely different people than we were then. Completely different budget than we were then, because we drove from that camp spot to our 9,000 square foot beach house right here on the beach.
That's amazing.
Okay, completely. We could not afford $1,000 beach house then. This place cost $8,000.
And we got a discount.
This was like half off. And I would say surrendering was a big part of that. So that was the story.
Amen.
Amen.
There's your story. So I hope you all go out and travel. And
well, you know what? This is interesting.
Now none of you've like, I've already committed. We are never traveling anywhere. If Rachel pooped her pants, we're not leaving.
This is actually very interesting, because what I thought of right now, which I didn't even tell you this yet, but I was listening to, well, it was just an insight from Jordan Peterson's podcast. I was listening to Jordan Peterson's podcast today, and he was talking about Carl Jung and all the archetypal imagery and meaning that's in The Lion King, the animated Lion King, right? And so one of the things that he said, which was interesting, is because he's introducing the story kind of, and he's talking about Mufasa talking to Simba, and he says, everything the light touches is your kingdom. He's like, but then he's like, that over there, don't go there, right? The dark part. And so Jordan Peterson is talking about how interesting this is, because he's comparing it to the story in Genesis of God in the Garden of Eden, and talking to Adam and Eve and saying, look at all this beautiful garden, but hey, don't touch that tree over there. And he said that that's very much how our lives are, and that's actually how we reach the things we want to reach and become the people we want to become, by facing and doing the things that are dark and we don't want to do and are scary and are
don't misunderstand that. We are not suggesting any of you go do drugs or anything. That's not what we're saying here.
Well, because he's comparing it to like Carl Jung, and Carl Jung talks about the shadow and how all of us have the shadow kind of, and it's the things that.
But he says it's looking into the pit.
Yeah.
And seeing the scariest thing possible and saying, yeah, I need to face that.
Right?
I need to face
it. And that's what happened with me on that experience. Like I had to face things going wrong. Right? Because that was my fear. My fear was that things were going to go wrong. We were going to go travel and things were going to go wrong. And of course, that's what happened because that's why I was afraid of what would happen. And until I surrendered to that and was okay with things going wrong, I couldn't get past that, right? But once I did that, that led to the foundation of the development of the rest of myself and the rest of my life. So Peterson was talking about how it's kind of this contradiction. We want to say to people like, don't go there. And yet at the same time, you have to go there. So maybe it's not traveling, but there's something for you that you don't want to face and yet you need to, because that's where you find your true self.
This has been a thought by Rachel Denning.
That's right.
Face the darkness, people. Oh, you didn't know you were getting a piece of that action tonight, did you? Woo! Oh, man. But
so that's an answer to that question.
Actually, can we go there for a second?
Oh, wow.
What's something you have been avoiding that you know you need to face? It might be,
or you're afraid of happening.
You're afraid that it's going to happen, or you're afraid to tackle a big dream or a goal because it's too intimidating. It's something you know you need to take care of,
or because
but you've
things
been
will go
avoiding
wrong
it.
or they won't work out. Or
what's that thing that maybe you've kind of been not looking at? We're just going to pretend it's not over there. Everyone look this way. I'm not going to look at that thing. What's that thing? What's the thing you need to face that if facing it would change everything for you and your family?
And literally change everything, because it was very interesting to think, still answer that question. I'm just going to add this. It's interesting to contrast the first journey where I was afraid things were going to go wrong and we were going to run out of money and this was going to, all this stuff, which all ended up happening. To the second time around, this
basically
journey,
she just admitted it was all her fault. She attracted everything that went wrong. Yeah.
Blame it on me if you want. Just kidding. Where this time around, I'm not going to say that the concerns necessarily go away. There's always things you should be considering as possibilities of going wrong so that you can prepare against them, right? But on this trip, I said, yeah, I know things are going to go wrong. I know things aren't going to work out 100%. I know there's going to be hiccups and interruptions and traffic. And, I knew that this time because I'd already climbed that mountain, right? But the difference in attitude was, bring it. Whatever happens, we can deal with it. Like, we've got the skills, we've got the knowledge, we've got the know-how to be able to handle it. Now, that's a completely different position to be in. And it's a powerful position to be in because you have less fear and more confidence and more capability. And that's what makes all the difference. Anyways.
Love it. Wow. And the chat box has got some gold in it. Let's share some of this. Heather says the thing she needs to face is her writing. Thankfully, I've started tackling it. Yeah, way to go. I've realized it's a rather complex ball of emotions, fears, and insecurities. Ooh, I bet most of us can relate to that. The thing we need to face is a rather complex ball of emotions, fears, and insecurities. Whoa. Oh, isn't that the truth? Lindy said, I named my birthwork business Sacred Surrender. Nice. That's awesome. What a name. So I've picked up work again 6 months ago and will be attending a midwifery school in the fall.
Yay.
So exciting.
That's awesome.
What better work is there than that?
I had a
man?
midwife
Helping
for all my births.
babies come in. We love midwives. Okay, here's another one. My relationship with my mom. I suspect there's at least a few of you in this group who need to face a relationship and maybe even face some of the issues caused by a relationship. It's interesting how often that comes up in coaching and working with people, that something was off maybe years ago, and it's still like got baggage, heavy, painful stuff that you're kind of dragging along through life. I was working with a coaching client today who has this, and she had it from her childhood. And we kind of stopped and looked back through her life, 50 years, and you could see this big plow mark through her whole life where she's just been dragging this issue like a plow through everything. And she's realizing how she brought that thing into all her other relationships and experiences. And so facing that thing, letting it go, for some of you, that's the thing you need to do. Face the thing. So also in the comments here, but I'm so excited since I've been reading Think and Grow Rich and The Magic of Believing, and I've created a powerful thought that I'm so excited about. Love that. Fantastic. Way to go reading those great books. Another one, I've been avoiding social media and making videos because I don't like being online and posting about myself and my family online.
That's funny because I actually feel the same way.
Exactly. That said, I know that I want to have a location-independent income, and that is likely going to require a lot of time online and being social media savvy.
Mhm.
Good thought there. Good thought there. Another one is money. I don't like talking about it. I just want to spend it. I love it. Hey, can I say something about that for all of us? For some reason, we have this funny thing around money. It becomes a very charged, emotionally charged thing. And some people never talk about it, never bring it up. They don't talk about it with their kids. They don't talk about the budget. They don't talk about anything. Money's just off limits. And I want to invite you to bring money into your world in a way that you're just like you talk about money like you talk about a hammer or a screwdriver. There's tools.
Dishes.
The dishes. Like we have dishes here because you need dishes to use the dishes. Like learn, fix your relationship with money so it's not so emotionally charged. It's just a beautiful thing. Money's a great thing. This is a tool. It's a tool we use, and the more tools you have, the more you can do for your family and for others. So bring that up. Don't be afraid to talk about it anymore. We're so afraid to talk about our income, how much we make and how much we spend and how much things cost, right? And what's funny is you can get on Zillow and you can see what every house costs, right? And so we'll go over sometimes and your friends are like, hey, this is a great house. What'd you pay for it? You'd think I just punched him in the stomach, right? And like, how dare you? I'm like, dude, I could pull up Zillow in 30 seconds and know exactly what you paid to the penny. Like, why don't you just tell me? Like, I can't tell you what we paid for it because it's money, right? And you're like, let's just be more open. It's just tools, man. It's good. It's all good.
And spending money is great.
Yep.
Spending money is a good thing.
As long as you're earning money.
I guess I'm just saying that I think what matters more than spending the money is the reason why you're spending the money. Because sometimes, just like with food, we're spending money as a buffer. right? Just like kind of we eat as a buffer, we watch Netflix as a buffer.
Man, I wrote that down again in my notes today. Too many of you are stuffing your feelings with food.
Or spending. So if that's the reason why we're spending, then we have to take a look at that. We have to examine it. But if we're spending it because we want to use it to improve and enhance our lives, that's a good thing. And as long as we do it with gratitude and excitement instead of fear and worry and stress and whatever else we do, then you can keep the flow of money flowing in your life, right? If you have gratitude for spending money, then the universe and God are going to give you more money to spend because you're grateful for spending it. That's my thoughts about that.
They're all like,
yeah,
more shopping. I love it. Okay, here's another one. I've realized that I don't like meeting new people. I feel that somehow I won't meet their expectations of who I am. Ooh, good insight. Thanks for sharing that. Right? There's a lot of times we don't want to engage with others because of our own thinking, right? Am I going to measure up? Am I enough? Will they like me? Will I like them? Or they're new? You know, that's a great insight there for all of us. You guys, what a great list. This is fantastic. So good. So good. Whew. Okay. So we got 2 more questions that came in via email. Do we have the questions?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one question that came in was, how do I help a child who's learning and growing and just like going wild for it, right? Going crazy, but it actually seems a little bit chaotic. Anybody have kids like that? They like get excited about something and they start running for it as fast as they can. And man, they just leave a trail of terror, right? They look like a tornado. And you're like, how do we help them? How do we help our kids like move forward at a crazy fast pace? Where's this balance? Do you help them slow down? Do you want to hold them back and have them finish things? Do you want to encourage the run, the sprint, and the chaos that's created and all the emotional roller coaster of it all? Like, what's the answer there? And the answer is, man, I have no idea.
That's so helpful.
That's it. We'll move on. No, obviously the answer is, and you know this already. You all know this already. It's unique to each child. And you have the intuition here. You have the genius, but you got to trust yourself. Trust yourself to get in a quiet place and follow your conscience, your instinct.
Let
there.
Your conscience be your guide.
Let your conscience be your guide.
Pinocchio.
But like, see what each child needs. Here's what I would say though. You guys, life is a gigantic experiment. Please allow your kids to experiment. And that means they're going to waste money. They're going to make messes.
Waste material.
They're going to waste material. They are going to embarrass you sometimes. You know this already. And they're going to do something. You're going to be like, oh, please let that go away quickly so that doesn't linger over our family. Right? Like, be willing to let your kids experiment. So as I was reading that email came in and hearing about all these projects she's doing and making the mess and wasting resources, all this stuff, I'm like, that's like this ultimate experiment lab. And yes, it's costing you money and resources. And yes, there's a mess. And yes, their emotions are all over the place. But life is this big, beautiful experiment. And the more things we can try, the better. Now,
well, I want to just add this story because in a lot of ways that was our approach. We would get resources and we would let our kids just do things and try things. Particularly my one daughter, she loved to cook and bake, and she would make lots of messes. because she also liked to experiment and like come up with her own things and make her own recipes that ultimately would fail and be worth, like nobody could eat them. But this same daughter now is 18 and she is an amazing cook. She loves cooking still,
Like a
and she's
chef.
like,
She just makes up
she's the one
stuff.
that made dinner
She'll,
for us tonight.
she'll grab any ingredients in the fridge and she'll make something
Doesn't
amazing.
even have to follow a recipe. Okay. So yeah, there was a lot of years where I was like, oh man, that was a waste of money because she just burnt this thing or tried this thing and it was like, oh. But it paid off in the long run. So same with our other kids, like with art, we would get all kinds of art supplies and paper and, you know, and now my son who's 16 is the artist and he's literally making money online.
Good money.
Drawing portraits for people, digital portraits. So yeah, it honestly seems chaotic and a waste, but I think that approach actually works really well with kids because they like to try stuff and they like to do different things, and it ultimately leads to helping them discover what she has to, well, what they like to do, right? Helps them discover that.
So the comment here says, well, she gets frustrated with herself, and that's a hard part to deal with, right? Agreed. And both the stories Rachel said, they both got really frustrated with themselves, like big time, like would go into this like depression, like, oh, and this. And so in those moments, you guys, when you or your spouse or your children get discouraged and frustrated with themselves, learn how to ask the right questions to help them walk through that. So often frustration really comes because, well, we might be asking the wrong question.
Or misaligned expectations.
Yeah, misaligned expectations. And so why does this never work out for me? Why do I suck at this, right? Those are presuppositions. And when we ask questions with presuppositions like, why doesn't anybody like me?
Loaded
right?
question.
It's so loaded. And it's presupposing that no one will like you. But it's asking the wrong question. So if you process that through with her, right? Say, oh, you did this great on this project. Why are you feeling frustrated about it? Well, it didn't turn out what I want. Okay. What would you do differently next time? Well, I realized this. And if you help them walk through it, learn how to process it. And so the question is, what would you do differently next time? That's an awesome question.
Well, and the thing is, in reality, this seems like a negative thing, maybe, that they're doing these projects or whatever and they're getting frustrated, when in reality, that's actually a good thing, because all of us go through that at some point. We try something, it fails, we get frustrated. The sooner we can have that experience and then learn how to deal with the emotions, the better, actually. So it's actually providing an opportunity to learn other lessons about emotional management and processing emotions and all these other things. So like Greg was talking about, you actually have an opportunity here. And so now the idea is, and some of the things that we would do is find stories about people who tried things and failed, or learn about, like, say, Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Why could I not remember his first name? Edison failing 10,000 times before inventing the light bulb. Like, you find little things like that, and then you just tell them, like, this is normal. That's okay. Yeah, everybody fails. I mess up all the time when I try things, and yeah, it's never going to work out the first time. Like, you just indoctrinate them with that kind of thinking of, this is normal. This is how it works. This is a good thing. This is a positive. And just really reinforce that, yeah, this is actually great. In fact, we'll do that. Our kids, I messed up on this. And we're like, yeah, good
Fantastic.
job.
Way to go. That was awesome. And they're like,
yeah. So you just use it as an opportunity to teach this real life lesson of, yeah, this is actually how it works.
Here's a perfect example. Parker would get he's our artist. He would get so frustrated because he couldn't get the eyes right. He was just trying. It's hard. It is very hard to draw eyes. And he would get, I'm never going to draw again. This is so dumb. I can't do faces. And you get so frustrated. And we talk through him. Hey, it's all right. You're doing great, man. Keep working. What do you need to do? Can you take a class? There's some videos you should watch. Keep practicing. How would you do that? And he just kept methodically working through it. And now he's just nailing these portraits of people, nailing them. And he's actually earning good money. I mean, he's a 16-year-old. He's a professional artist because he's being paid to draw. It's a beautiful thing. So getting to frustration is great. Now you do the coaching, do the mentoring as a parent. So really, really great lessons. Love that. Okay, next question.
Well, it's connected.
What?
This one right here.
Oh, I didn't see that.
The opposite is that she sometimes doesn't care about the mistakes, ones that really need to be fixed.
That's coaching too.
It depends on what it is, but I think all of us care about the mistakes when it actually matters to us. If it doesn't really matter, then we don't really care.
And so if it's something that doesn't matter to her, don't make a big deal of it, I would say. And if it is important to her, but she's missing the mistake, then help her really tactfully help her see it. See how you can hold a standard of excellence for the things that matter.
Say the mistake, I mean, I don't know what the mistakes are, but like spelling or grammar or like whatever the mistake is, we all care more about it when it's relevant. Like when your spelling becomes embarrassing when you're texting your friends, then you care and you're going to start fixing those mistakes. That's one random example, right? Or, you know, if you're drawing something and the eyes are off, well, you're going to care because it's relevant to what you're doing. So mistakes in a lot of ways will fix themselves when the consequences of those mistakes become relevant and actually affect your life. So you either have to make the consequences of the mistakes relevant somehow or wait until they become relevant in some way. Like the texting thing is a good idea. Like I had a child that their spelling was terrible, but it improved once they started emailing and texting friends because then it was relevant. So I don't know.
Because their friends would respond back and be like, I don't know what you just wrote.
Said.
We didn't have to say anything.
Right.
Like, oh, that's relevant right there. So make it, good coaching there is making it relevant.
I guess I need to learn coaching. Any book about that? Gosh. Think of a coaching.
We need to write one. That's what I keep thinking. A course on coaching and mentoring.
I can't think of one right now. I don't know that there is a coaching book. Is there?
I've read some, but I haven't read one that I'm like, oh, that's amazing. That one's it. But it's just learning to ask the questions.
I mean, there's that one by Parker something about.
Ooh, The Courage to Teach.
That's a good one.
Oh man, that's amazing.
It's like a teaching, mentoring.
So if you're ever going to interact with any humans ever, I think you should probably read that book. Especially if you have children or you're ever going to teach, which you're always teaching, read that book.
The Courage to
Teach by Parker Palmer.
Parker Palmer.
Oh, it's so good. But basically the message is ultimately we always end up teaching what we are. Doesn't matter what our subject is. Doesn't matter what we're saying. Ultimately, we teach what we are. That's what comes out. Oh man, that's a great message. I love that stuff. Oh yeah, nice. And the best way to learn coaching is by being coached. Yeah, so good.
Great book. Just bought it. Haven't read it yet.
Oh, The Coaching Habit.
Oh, the
Interesting.
Coaching Habit.
Cool. I know Jack Canfield, he co-authored a book about coaching. So his stuff's really good. Okay. Then the other question that came in was, we haven't even got to the topic for tonight, you guys. We might have to save that for next time. The other question that came in was about electronic devices. How much to control and allow electronics into our kids' lives and that kind of stuff. And that's always going to be a tricky one. It's always going to be a bit complicated. And I think from here on out, it's going to be an issue.
Well, yeah, we're never going back. That's for sure. Devices are now a part of our lives.
And here's our standard operating procedure. And we invite you to write this down and think about it, at least for the next few years.
At least for the next 10 years.
Think about this one for the next 10 years. Technology and devices are tools for mature people. Devices are tools for mature people.
Not toys.
They are not toys. If you use a technology as a toy, the end result so far in all of our experience working with a lot of people is not pretty. It does not end up okay because they're extremely addictive.
Can be.
They are. And they were designed that way. What's that documentary called? You know?
Social Dilemma. We haven't even watched it yet.
Is it Social Dilemma?
Something like that.
It's something about, it's the creators of who created social media. And like these guys, they don't even let their own kids on there because they know what it is. They understand the monster they created. And there's a couple good books. One is called I Minds, like IMINDS. There's some other books coming out about what's happening, what devices are doing to our brains. And anyways, we I guess that fits with the topic of tonight, doing your research. Do your homework, people. Like, do your research. Know what effect this kind of stuff has and the end result thinking. So then when it comes to devices, and everyone has to make their own decision about how much devices fit in their family, and it's different for each family, right? We use devices every day. All of us do, because we all study languages using like Duolingo. We are all doing these lots of videos, lots of audiobooks. Everyone in our family listens to insane amounts of audiobooks. We're using, some of them are creating stuff on social media and doing
portraits.
business. A couple of them like are earning money using their devices every day, right? And so like you have to understand what it's being used for. So the framework is, it's a tool. The second framework is, we always talk about the consumption versus creation ratio.
Well, I want to add I guess I want to put this in context here. When our kids were younger, we super emphasized these ideas. It's a tool, not a toy. And you should be focusing on creation, not just consumption. Now, there's going to be some consumption that happens. Consumption is watching videos, scrolling on Instagram, anytime where you're passive rather than active. Posting on Instagram is active, where scrolling on Instagram is passive. So it's creation versus consumption.
This is good for you guys too, everyone. Like manage your ratios. Are you consuming or creating?
So we emphasized those things when they were younger, and anytime. So first of all, we controlled the devices. So we knew the passwords, all of that.
And we put on controls, parental controls.
Yeah. App limits, all that kind of stuff, screen time. And whenever they wanted to use a device, they needed to tell us specifically what they were going to be doing and for how long. So that right there created the habits we wanted them to develop as far as device usage, because those are the habits we have. We don't just get on our phone like we're just sitting here and we're like, oh, I don't know what to do. And we never do that. Every time we get on our phone, it's with a specific purpose in mind. I'm getting on to post on Instagram. I'm getting on to make a podcast. I'm getting on to, even if it's to consume, I'm getting on to look at reels. So I did this last night. I looked at reels on Instagram to get ideas for reels I want to create on Instagram, right? So I spent a specific amount of time doing that intentionally. So we created that habit with them of, they needed to know, and the reason why we would do this by asking them is because their developing that process in their mind of thinking through, why am I getting on this device and how long do I plan to be on it? So as they were younger, they developed those habits. So then that became natural to now when they're older and they have more freedom to choose them, like they know their own passwords and all this kind of stuff. Now all we do is check in with them. So we try to do it every week, although it's not 100%. Every week, like on Sunday, we get on and everybody, and I'll usually start
in front of everybody.
The whole family's sitting there.
Everybody
and
knows
I get on and I'm like, oh, I
else.
spent 13 hours on Instagram this week, you know, because I do marketing on Instagram. So I spend a lot of time on there. And I spent, you know, 27 minutes on messages and or whatever. And then I go around, I take everyone's device and I read it out to everybody. Oh, you spent, you know, however long on this and however long on that. And it's just this kind of accounting of like, well, what were you doing on that? And we'll ask sometimes, you know, or they'll just offer it. They're like, oh, well, I was you know, you spent 5 hours on YouTube. Well, I was watching a course on, you know,
a full course on drawing.
Or I was doing this, or I was doing that. So it provides this accountability because ultimately the goal is, because devices are here and they are going to be a part of our life, we want our kids to know how to use them, not to mention the fact that we've already set our kids up to want to live a traveling digital nomad lifestyle, which means they're going to very likely be working online and creating businesses online. So they need to know how to do that. And the only way they can learn how to do that and appropriately manage their use of time is by practicing it. So I think by having basic principles in place, then they can practice and then regularly be held accountable for how they're actually spending that time.
So really great question here. So somebody threw this in chat. So the hardest part of technology use for me is how to break the terrible habits that I've allowed for my kids and myself. What's a good starting point to do better? Love that. That is an awesome, awesome question. I think one idea that has worked for us and for other families is to intentionally do like a media fast or a media break, a device break. And so you give everyone a heads up. So you might say, hey, this Saturday and Sunday, guys, we're not going to do any screens, no screen time at all. So you give people a heads up. They know it's coming. You prepare for it mentally. Yeah, we're like, hey, we're going to take a break. And then when we restart again on Monday, we're going to do it with better parameters, because we want to control our devices so that our devices don't control us. You can tell, you guys, you have a problem if you feel like you're losing control. If you feel like you've lost control a little bit, you can tell you got a problem. If you're in denial about that, you also have a problem, right? And if here's the most common troublesome habit, I think, it's when people are bored. And ask yourself this right now. If you have nothing else to do, what do you do? And this is when most people take out their phone. They have a break and they're like,
just, you know,
bloop.
If I have nothing else to do, I'll take out my phone, but it's probably to do Duolingo and do my Spanish or my French. Not just, oh, let's see what's happening on Instagram.
Who's doing what? Scroll mindlessly, and 2 hours later, you're still watching cat videos. And you're like, what was I supposed to be doing with my life? Right? So use it purposefully, intentionally.
And we have done that several times over the years where we let them practice, and then we notice that there's just too much consuming going on, right? You're just watching a lot of stupid videos or whatever. Let's take a break for a second and reset, and let's talk about this again. And maybe you watch a movie about it or read something or whatever to like help people get the context of why it matters and why it's important and why they should be caring about being intentional about their time on there and what the exchange rate is. I mean, we've had our kids come to us before where they're like, and they've told us like, I haven't been as creative, or I haven't been reading, or I don't even want to
play outside anymore because I've just been wanting to watch videos.
Yeah. And so have conversations about that stuff and create this awareness about it so that they're aware that it's happening to them. and that they can, vocalize it and talk about it, and then restart the usage of the devices with new goals. And maybe they set, like, oh, I'm going to set a time limit for myself of only using this app for so long, or only being on my device for this amount of time every day. Let them, decide what they're going to
And if your
do
kid,
and how they're going to use it.
if your kids are really young, you set the time and tell them why, help them understand it. And on those days when you do your break, you guys, when you do your kind of media fast or your break, make sure you do something really fun and engaging. Don't just
So it's not
like,
just boring.
you're just locked in the house all day without devices. This is horrible. This is the stupidest idea ever, Mom.
Yeah.
And like, do something fun, engaging, get out in nature, go do something cool adventure. Like, hey, we're gonna do something awesome. We're not bringing our phones or devices. Like, we're just gonna go do wonderful things. And then after, and you might
have some positive association there.
Some families might want to have a certain day every week where you have time off. I think all of us should have time away from our devices. And if you go through withdrawals, if you find yourself like with shakes and trembles and like a head twitch, like you need help. Like something's up. Like you got to cut off the device there. It's a little too addictive.
And then there was when we were at our house in Georgia, we did this more. It's not as easy on the road, but generally at 9:00, I had an app, so the internet just shut off. And so, that's it. You're done for the night. You just don't get on. That at least should be a break. Like there should be a break from like 9 p.m. until you get up in the morning.
And I would say, I think it's a very safe rule. No devices in the bedrooms for kiddos, and maybe even for you. It'd be pretty wise to do that. So another awesome question here. What about for spouses, right? A lot of people say, so he says, my husband says it's how he decompresses. I don't want to manage him, but when he's on his device, everyone else gets on their device. So he's setting a precedence. So what's interesting about the decompressing, there's a really great book about this. It's called The Power of Full Engagement. In The Power of Full Engagement, they say we manage our energy levels by increasing our stress. We actually want that. We want to push harder and do more, but we also have to increase our recovery. And every one of us, in order to function properly, we have to have good recovery. What they found again and again and again, we think and we tell ourselves the story that getting on devices is recovery.
Or watching TV.
It's not. It's not.
Science is showing.
Yeah, the science says otherwise. You're not decompressing. You're not recovering. It's just you're checking out. And so, and they did all the study, like, are people happier after being on social media? And they're not. And they don't feel renewed and rejuvenated, and they don't feel ready to, yeah, I had this great 20-minute break on social media. I'm ready to get back to life. Usually they're like, oh crap, I gotta go back to my stuff. So there are way better ways, far better ways to decompress.
That's tough. You can find the research and share it with him, or even ask, say, at the very least, if you want to get on and do that, can you go in the bedroom or somewhere else where nobody sees you? Because I don't want the kids getting on, and here's why, or whatever.
You're setting a family culture and family precedents, and just come up with ideas. Say, hey, instead of getting on our devices, let's all read a book. Let's do some yoga together. Let's read stories. Let's do something inspirational. Let's listen to this podcast. Let's do something else that, like, generate those ideas so you have better ideas.
Go fishing. I don't know.
Make love. I mean, if you have, okay, this will always work. If your husband on his device say, hey, let's just make sex and let's make sex. Let's make some sex instead. Sorry for anyone who's not listening. I wasn't ready for that. Sorry. I know there's some other ears, but that's always a good one. That's way better decompression than a device. So I pull my phone and Rachel's like, I'll be like, I'll throw my phone off the balcony, right? Works every time.
Works every time.
Way better decompression and connection and all kinds of goodness.
So use whatever you need.
Yeah.
This is what we're saying.
Just, like, go for the whatever you got to do.
So there was a question that was kind of answered about the usage time. again, I only know on the iPhones also under settings and then screen time. You have to actually turn it on. So I have to go to all my
So it'll
kids'
track it.
devices and turn it on, but under settings, it's under just screen time, and you turn on screen time, and then so like this is my usage for this week so far. And
for those of you who are not using iPhones,
good luck.
Like I'm not
It's
even sure.
2021,
I'm
just
not even
kidding.
sure what to say to you. Like, why would you not have?
Stop. We're not gonna go there. We're not gonna go there.
Just we don't know how to use those. So do a quick Google search.
We don't know how to use those.
I know
things.
I know they do manage it.
Okay.
That's good. We're gonna wrap up there. We didn't even get to our topic, so we'll come back to it because I'm super excited about it. But that was worth stories and good questions and insights. Good stuff. Most importantly, we want you to know that you are amazing human beings. That you're here. We know you could be doing other things, and you're here. And you're great, and you care, and you're being intentional and deliberate people, and you love your families, and you want to live great lives. And we love you, and we're grateful that you're a part of our tribe here, our community. So thanks for being awesome humans and being here with us in Mexico. We wish you were all here at the beach house together. We got to do these things live, man. Soon, you guys, we're going to be doing these cool retreats together, doing awesome things. So thank you again. Yep. Love it. Yeah. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
And we'll see you after we get back from the Galapagos.
After Cotopaxi and the Galapagos, we'll have some pictures and stories, you guys.
Sunday.
More epic stories. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Okay. Love you all. Thanks for being here. Reach upward. Thanks. We're so excited. 20 years, you guys. 20 years anniversary. It's amazing.